Hi, my name is Tiago Duarte and welcome to another video tutorial here at Daily Beats. In today's video, I'm going to do a FL Studio crash course where I will show you the basics of FL Studio. Without further ado, let's start the tutorial. So FL Studio can be a very intimidating tool or application as like any other DAW. So let's start with a very simple parts. Let's divide the interface into several parts that can be easily understandable. So the first thing, we have this top level menu, let's say, and here we have the main menu where we have all the options available. So as you can see, we have file, we can create new from template, and we can open files, we can save them, we can import and export audio and the projects and video, and we can import MIDI, and we have a couple more options. Here we have the edit where we can cut, copy, paste and undo all the modifications that we've just made. We can add more plugins. In this case, these plugins that we will look at it later, and we can have also add effects. These are also plugins. Then we have the patterns where you can select pretty much everything. I usually don't use this menu a lot, but because you can have all these options available in the other windows that we will talk in just a few minutes. And here we can check what are the windows that we want. For instance, if you want to show up the playlist, we can click here, or we can click on F5, as you will see here, F5. So if I click here, the playlist will be turned off. If I click here, I can toggle the playlist. As you can see here, this button also gets yellow or orange, and this indicates that you can also go here, click here and enable and disable the playlist. As you will see, there are a lot of ways to do the same thing in FL Studio, which can easily increase your productivity. So we have the playlist, piano roll, channel rack, mixer and browser. Those are the 5 main windows that you will need to make music and are the most important ones here in FL Studio. Of course, we have a couple more windows where the project picker, plugin picker, and if we click here, for instance, you will see a list of all the plugins. I don't usually use this, but you can also use this if you like. It will depend on how you like to work. And we have a couple more options, layouts and browser. So we have a lot of functionality here in these menus, but I will show you the way that I use this the most. Of course, we have options here where you can configure the system options, MIDI settings, audio settings, general settings, file settings, and manage plugins, where you can add your own plugins or third-party plugins to FL Studio. And of course, we have here settings for the project info, debug log, and a couple of other options that I will not go with, I will not touch in this crash course. Then we have tools, and here there are several macros that are very important that you can use to speed up your workflow. I don't usually use these options or this menu too much because I like to use the menus in each window that will enable me to work faster. Then we have here the master volume. And if you see here in this corner here, it says hint panel. Whenever I say hint panel, I want you to look at this panel here because it will give you some information on the knob that we are hovering. So let's say I go and put the mouse here on this knob. As you can see, it says master volume. If I put here, it says master pitch. So you can change the master volume and the master pitch. And here we have the song pattern mode and the play pause controls, stop, record, the time that you can set the BPMs. And here is basically a song position, a slider where you can set the position of the song. And here we have a couple more options. We have, in this case, is minutes, seconds, and CS. I'm not sure what is it, but here it's like a timer where you can see where you are positioning in the song in terms of seconds. You can also change these to bars, so centiseconds. That's what CS means. And you can see bars, beat, step, or tick. and tick. Of course, if you right click on any menu, you can see some options. If it doesn't, if that button does not have any options, you will not see any menu popping up. But if it does, you will see that, for instance, here in the time, you can set several BPMs automatically, or you can also create some automation clip and copy values, set values, half speed, where you can put the velocity that you have half speed, or the project, let's say, is 100 BPMs. If you put it half speed, it will be 50 BPMs. And this is easier sometimes to play in the piano or to record notes. This can be more helpful when you are recording and if you don't have too much experience with the keyboard. Then we have here a monitor, and of course you can also edit the position of these tools here, and I will show you how. If you go here and you right click, you will see another menu and you can edit. If we click edit, you will see that now I can move things forward. For instance, I can move panels, I can add stuff. I can put this bigger, smaller. You will see that I can put the monitor smaller, bigger. I can, if I want, disable the monitoring. You can put a lot of stuff. You can put separators if I want, for say, let's say, have a separator here. If I close the edit, this is actually not a separator. I don't know why I add that. Where is the separator? Here, fixed space. If I want to do a fixed space here, let's say I want to have that space there, you see now that I have the space. So you can pretty much do whatever. I recommend you explore this because you can have a lot of functionality based, or you can customize your own menu here. The most important part here is this menu here, or these tools, where you can see view playlist, view piano roll, view channel rack, view mixer, and view browser. And those, I told you, are the main windows that we use to make music. So this is the main, or the top menu. This does not change regardless of whatever window you have enabled. So let's take all of the windows. As you can see, I remove all of the windows from FL Studio, and you see that I still have this main menu here, the top menu. So this top menu will always be available here for you to have your tools and access everything. So let's start with this one here, is the playlist. The playlist is where you create your own patterns, and pattern is basically, as the name indicates, is a pattern where you can have sounds, where you can have melodies, chord progressions, drum patterns, whatever you need to construct music or to make music. These are the elements that you can then use them and repeat them as blocks. You can imagine them as blocks, and it's used to construct the song or make a composition or arrangement. And basically, as you can see, I have pattern 1. You can have several patterns. You can still add patterns and put them whatever order you want. So let's say I had these patterns here. I can copy and paste them and make a composition like that. So the playlist allows you to create arrangements, so you can take out patterns, you can add patterns, you can remove them, you can arrange the patterns as you want. Let's say you have a classical song structure, which is an intro, a verse, and a chorus. Let's only take those 3. Let's say that you have that. You can have 8 bars for the intro, and you can have pattern 2 start only on the verse. Let's make this a little bit shorter like that. And then we have pattern 3 starting, for instance, on the chorus. So you can have this section here for the intro, and you can have only the pattern 1 for the intro. Let's say this is a piano melody or a piano chord progression. In this case, the patterns are empty. I'm just giving you the concept. For instance, for the verse, you can have 16 bars, and you would have, for instance, the piano progression, and let's say in pattern 2 you will have the drums, and then you have for this one here, which would be, let's say in this hypothetical case, the chorus, and in the chorus you would have the chord progression, the drums, and then, for instance, some strings. So here, as you can see, you can arrange the song, you can add patterns. This is also where you would record audio. You can also import stuff here. So basically this is your canvas where you start arranging song structure. This is where you would, or where you start creating the full song that you want. Then we have the piano roll. The piano roll is where you add all of your notes and chords, and that's basically it. For instance, you can add here a note, and as you can see, it's C. This piano roll gives us a lot of functionality, and we can learn a lot about music theory. We can expand our knowledge about music theory also based on the tools that are provided here by the piano roll. We can decrease and increase the volume of that note. I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but I just want to give you some sounds as we go through the course. So let's go here to the channel rack, and as you can see, we are in pattern 2, and I already add this note here, and you can see that I have a note in this pattern. You can also click here to go to the piano roll, or you can just go and click here. And again, if you click F7, if you see the hint panel, it says view piano roll and F7. So we can also click on F7, and there is another way also if you right click here and you go to piano roll. As I told you, there are numerous ways of doing the same thing in FL Studio, and this is a very nice thing because it gives you flexibility, and also it makes a little bit more confusing, but it also gives you a little bit flexibility for having your own workflow. Okay, so let's add an instrument here, and to add an instrument we can go to this plus button, or we can replace the sound that we have here. For instance, if I click here, we have a sampler, but it doesn't have any sound, it doesn't do anything. So let's replace here, right click, replace. Let's go to 3x oscillator, which is a synthesizer. And it's one of the most simple and powerful synths in FL Studio, and it's native from FL Studio. It comes with FL Studio, and let's see here. So now if I click here, you will listen to notes, and here is basically where you can add your notes. We can add chords, and we can have either more notes, and we can change the velocity of all the notes, and the velocity will change the volume. Okay, so if you click on Alt and left click here, it will reset all the notes. You can also select only an individual note, and to do that you can go to these options here on the top, or you can also learn some shortcuts. So if you want to select just individual note, you can click there. The shortcut, it's just above here. You will see that the shortcut, it's E. Every time I click on a key, it's playing on the piano roll. So it's if you don't want to have your keyboard as a MIDI controller, you have to disable this. And now if I click on E, it's not playing any note, but you can see that it's highlighting this functionality here. So if I go here, which is the pencil, and P, and you will see that now I have P, the pencil, and I click on E, and I have the selector, and this is the select. So I can select this note here, move to the P, and I can just lower the volume of this individual note. As you can see, this one is different than that one. If you add another one here, you can have individual notes. But if they are all together like this, you have to select the note that you want to change the volume. You have to manually select that note and lower the volume of that note. So if you want to select without having to go here and change this menu, you can just do the shortcut that I use, which is Control. As you can see, Control now is enabled in this button, and you can just drag and drag over the note that you want, or the notes that you want, and select just that note, and then you can now have different notes with different, or the notes with a different velocity. If I go to click on Alt and left click here, I will reset all the notes. So now if I play, you'll see that all the notes have different values. And I can, for instance, let's say, let's change this again. Let's make this sound different by lowering even more the values. Now it sounds different even though it's the same chord. It does have different sounding because I lower the volume of every note. Now that we see the velocity, you can control different parameters. Also, you can control the panning, the release, the pitch, and you have to explore here. For instance, if I do panning, you have only on the right side. Oops. If I go on the opposite, you have it on the left. So as you can see, you can also have different pannings or different values for each note, and you do that by changing them here. So I usually just stay with velocity and panning. Sometimes you want to do note pitch, but I would not recommend doing this way. But if you want, you can. Okay, so this is where you create your own melodies and chord progressions, and this is where you can basically start creating the patterns or the blocks that will work as a base for your composition or your song structure. Okay, and then after the piano roll, we have the channel rack. And the channel rack, as you can see, is this window here. It's a very simple window. With the channel rack, you can add whatever synth you have in your plugin database. So as you can see here, I have third-party plugins. You can see that I have a couple of plugins from different companies. I have from Hair a couple of ones, but you will see that with FL Studio, it comes with a couple of plugins, and they are very good plugins, so you can do a lot of good music just with FL Studio plugins. This is where you add a different plugin, so let's add here GMS, and this is again a different plugin, different. You have different sounds here, and you have some presets. The channel rack is a simple window. It's not so complex as the other ones. This is basically where you add your sounds, where you add your synthesizers, and where you start combining all the notes to create a song. That's basically it. You have here groups where you can have all on unsorted, but I don't use this too much. I just throw the sounds here that I want, and I just work with them. It can be beneficial if you are working with different people on a project to organize this with different groups and everything. I usually work alone. I do my own projects alone, so I don't use that too much. But again, it's something that you have to see how it would work for you and how you should organize your projects. And one thing that you have here is the size of the channel buttons. As you can see, you can have big buttons or short buttons, and of course, this is customization. It allows you to make it look as you want. We have here this triangle, and this triangle is basically a menu, and inside of each window you have different menus. If I show you, for instance, the playlist, let's close this. The playlist also have this triangle, and you can see that it has a lot of different tools. Each window has its own tools, and if you go here, you can do a lot of stuff here, and I would recommend you to go through each option and try to learn the most that you can. This will be a basic crash course just to give you the ins and outs of main windows and how you can start creating your first song. So at the end, I will show you, I will create a simple song just to give you an idea of how you can create music with FL Studio. Okay, so this is the channel rack. It's a place or the window where you can add your own sounds and plugins. Then we have here a swing knob where you can add swing to your drums basically and to your melodies. And the swing is basically something that it gives a little bit of natural flavor to the pattern that you are doing. For instance, if you sequence your drums, if you want to add a little bit of natural feeling, you can add a little bit of swing to make the drums bounce a little bit more organically. Here we have the pattern length. As you can see now, we have 1 bar, but if I put it to, this is actually in steps. Now it's 16 steps. I can put it at 32 steps, which means 8 bars. And I can put it to 64 steps, which would mean 4 bars. And again, this is just something that you can do. You can also set the size like this, and you can also expand this and move this here around. But I would recommend, if you want to extend this, to either use the piano roll like that, which is a little bit easier for you to see the values and navigate through the full pattern that you have. Because here, if you start using this, it can be a little bit confusing because it's not so easy to see where you are in terms of beats or the position that you currently are working with. We have here the graph editor, and the graph editor basically is where you can add your own notes. And if you go here, pitch note, you can change the pitch of the note. You can add notes here like that, as you can see. And if we go now to piano roll, you will see that we have the same thing. So this is a easier and faster way to work. You can also change the velocity. You can also change the panning. Basically the same thing that we did in the piano roll, you can also do it here, but with a little bit faster, or for simple things, simple notes or simple sounds. And if we go here to the panning, you see that we have pretty much the same thing. One thing that you cannot do in the graphic mode, I think, it's to extend the notes. So I don't think you can extend, no. Let's see, no, you cannot extend the notes. So if you want to make this note just 3 steps, you cannot extend it. But here in the piano roll, you can, for instance, extend it like this. So this doesn't sound good, but it's something just to demonstrate you that you can do things here in the graph editor directly into the channel rack if you want to do some basic stuff. Then we have the interactive step sequence or the piano roll view. This is where you can switch between just having this as a piano roll or having this as this step sequencer. For drums, the step sequencer works really well. For notes, I would probably just use this view here, but this is automatically, if you start adding, if you just have this here, it will just be a step sequence mode. But if you go to the piano roll and start adding notes with length like that, you will start seeing this changing to the piano roll overview. Again, it's just automatic stuff. And here you have the X where you can close out the channel rack. Okay, so after the channel rack, we have the mixer, and the mixer is basically where you put all your sounds so that you can mix them, apply effects, and then master all your tracks. So mixing is another different concept, another different course, and you can spend hours and hours just learning mixing. So it's very sometimes hard concept to understand, and it takes a lot of practice and a lot of experience to be good at mixing, but it's not impossible. And you can learn the concepts of mixing and then apply them. It's what I want to say, it's a little bit of a mix of art and science. So you can learn the science of mixing, but again, it's just it's a little bit of art that you can only get through practicing. Imagine a little bit like painting. So if you want to paint, you can learn how to use the brush in a certain way, or which brush to use with that type of technique or whatever. I'm not very good at painting, so I'm sorry if I'm saying something wrong, but you can learn the techniques of painting. But to make a good painting, it's not very easy. So you can learn all the techniques that you want, but when you are going to apply them, it requires practice, it requires some years of dedication and learning how to understand things and what goes with, and that can take a little bit of time and experience. So it's a little bit of a mix of art and science. So that's why I think the painting analogy is a good one. You can learn the techniques of how to hold the brush and how to mix the colors, but then apply that to create a painting, a masterpiece. It's a different story. But again, here is where you can add your own channels or associate the plugins that you have to the mixer. And FL Studio is a little bit different from the other DAWs that I know, because in FL Studio you have a lot of control over where the sounds go. So if we go here to the channel rack, you see that I have two instruments, 3x oscillator and GMS. And if I want to, you see that I don't have any number here, but this is the target mixer track. So you can assign these synths to whatever track you want in the mixer. So the mixer, it's not associated with the track that you are working with, or I don't want to say track, but instrument that you are working with. And here in the playlist, there also you can see that there are tracks, but the track is not associated also with the pattern. So if you have this pattern here, I can move this pattern to track 4, and you will see that we have pattern 1 in track 4, but we also have it on track 1, and this will work the same. So you will not have different sounds or different processing, because this pattern here, it's different or located in a different track. So this is the same thing here as it is in this channel. So if you have this instrument here, you can route it to, for instance, let's route it to channel 2. And now if I add here, let's put it here, a bass note. It's only on the left. Let's reset this. You can see that the GMS is still playing, so we can unsolo this. And you can see that the GMS is still playing, but the GMS is not set to any mixer track or insert here. It will play as the master or in the master channel. But now that we send this track here or this instrument to track 2, to insert 2, now you can see that this track 2 will have this source here. Basically, what you can see is that you have an instrument, you have to assign it to an insert in the channel, in the mixer. So you have to route that instrument to the mixer, and then you can control it on the mixer, and you will have a different workflow to make this sound or this pattern into the playlist. So these are individual, let's say, blocks where you can do different processing. So in the mixer, you can do audio processing. In the playlist, you can do arranging processing. Let's say, I don't know if that's the correct word to use, but here you can process your blocks in the way you want, or arrange the blocks in the way you want. Then you can send the instrument to a specific insert in the mixer, and here you can make audio processing on it. So let's put this GMS on track 3, for instance, and now you see that we have insert 1 with the bass and GMS with the synth. So if I unsolo this, now we just have GMS, and if I unsolo this, we just have the bass. So this is the basic concept. Here in the GMS, in the channel rack, you have all your instruments. You can route every single instrument. You can route them to the same track, or you can route them to different tracks. And let's say we have equalizer here. Let's go with filters, equalizer, and let's say we had a low pass filter or a high pass filter actually. Let's say we had this high pass filter, and let's make it more aggressive. Here, if I move this to track 4, the processing that was in insert 3 will not go to track 4. So you can route the plugins that you want or the instruments that you want to every individual track here, to any individual insert in the mixer. But if you change the routing of the instrument to the insert, then you also change the processing that will affect that instrument. So I hope that's clear. It can be a little bit confusing. After you understand the basic routing of the instruments to the mixer, it will start make more sense as you also start creating more stuff. You can, of course, enable stuff, pan it, make it on the right, on the left. You can also change the master volume. This is a different volume than the one here in the piano roll. So let's say we have a different note with a lower volume and the same note with a higher volume, and this one note here with this volume. So if I change the volume here, it will change the volume of all the notes, keeping the same ratio. So if I increase everything, it increases everything, but this variation here, it's kept. So this volume here will not influence the volume of the notes itself. So I hope that that's clear. So you can change the volume here. You can add, as I told you, you can add in these slots here effects, which are audio effects. And we have distortion, we have chorus, we have compressors, we have, let me show you what else. You can also have third-party plugins. I have a lot from Waves. Yeah, I have some from like the Fidelity EQ, from Daily Beats. You can have different effects, but you can also have some effects that are native from FL Studio that are very good. And the quality of these plugins, it's comparable to any other DAW out there, any other professional DAW. So FL Studio is a very capable tool and a digital audio workstation, and you can create very good high quality projects with just the tools that are inside of FL Studio. So you don't necessarily need extra tools. The tools that you have inside here are quite enough to make your own projects with high quality. One thing that I would like to add here for the mixer is the capability of routing. So as you see, this one here is going to also the master, and here is the master volume that controls all the other master volumes. It's a little bit different from this master volume here. For instance, I can change the master volume here, and it changes the volume overall of the application of the DAW, but you can also have this master volume here. And if you lower this volume also, you will get even lower volume. So I recommend not to use this volume here, this master volume. Only use the volumes here in the mixer to control to individually control inserts that you want. In this case is the master, and of course you can also pan this right and left. You can change the volume. You can add plugins here. You also have this EQ. Let me put it here higher so that you can see that you also have a EQ here, and you can have input and output controls. So this is a very basic overview of all the windows, and we still have another window to take a look at, which is the browser. The browser is where you have access to all of the sounds and all of the information regarding this project. So instead of just working with synths, you can also work with audio files. And as I showed you here in the channel rack, you can add synths to the channel rack and start creating some melodies, but you can also add, for instance, drum sounds. And here, native with FL Studio comes a pack folder, and if you click here, you have some drums and loops and even instruments folders that contain sounds and instruments that you can use. So let's go here to drums, and you can have, for instance, kicks. And if you want to use this kick, there are several ways to do that. You can just drag and drop. You can, use this one. You can right click here and open a new channel. You can also replace the kick. So let's say I want to put this one there. You can either click it there or here. It will update the sound, or you can send to select channel or focus plugin and it replaces. So again, FL Studio, you can do the same thing several different ways. And let's go now to pattern 3, for instance, and let's play just the pattern mode. And if you want to do just a single, let's add this one here, just a single drum pattern, we can do something like this. And let's lower the velocity a little bit. And it's simple as that. You can drag sounds, and these sounds you can also change the pitch if you want. You can put it like this, and you can create, I don't know, like a melody. You can also do that. You can do the same for the snare. Again, you can do everything here that you want in FL Studio. Okay, you can still add different sounds. Let's add this one. Okay, now we have a small drum loop. That's basically it in terms of adding sounds. So you can just drag and drop sounds into the project and they will be here for you to mess around with them. You can also add your own folders here to the browser so that you can have your sound library where you can browse it. And to do that, you go Options, File Settings, and here Browse Extra Search Folders. And here you can add your own folders. You can see you have a lot of options, and you can add your own folders and change the browser name. As you can see, for instance, I have my music business, music projects is called dailybits.pt, and you will see it's this folder here. And if I open, it has some of my projects here. That's basically it. You can add your own folders and you can navigate through them. And as you can see, I have some libraries. It has my libraries that I bought, so I have them accessible if I want to go and find some let's say some drums here. I can go and just drag and drop this into my playlist or into my channel rack and start working with the sounds that I have. So as you can see, this is also very flexible and you can start making some nice things with this. We are already at 45 minutes. It's a little bit longer than I was expecting. So let's try now to make something really fast so that you can see everything in action. So let's go and do a new project. And let's add some drums. I will do a simple hip hop track. So let's put it at 90. Let's add some drums. I will use actually the same thing that I used in the other one. I don't remember what was the snare that I used. I think it was this one. Okay, let's do that. Okay, something like that. Very simple. Let's do fill each 2 steps. We can also add a little bit of swing. You can see now it sounds a little bit more human. So now let's go to the mixer and let's put this on channel 1, put this on channel 2 or insert. I call it channel, but it's insert. And let's lower the volume of the hi-hat. Okay, it's very simple. You just add the sounds, made your own drums or your pattern, and then you can move or add stuff here. So let's add a little bit of distortion to the kick to make it pop a little bit more. And let's go here, distortion. Let's go with fast distortion. Okay, like that. And now I want to apply, for instance, a low pass filter. Okay, just a simple processing just for you to have an idea of what is possible. And now let's add a piano. If you go here to instruments, we have keyboards and we have a closed grand. So let's add the closed grand here and you just drag and drop. Okay, so another thing that I want to do is go and send this pattern to the playlist. So let's do like that. And what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to have this, as I told you in the beginning of this crash course. I want to do introduction, an intro, which will be these 4 bars. And then I will have 16 bars just for the verse. And then I will have another 8 bars for the chorus. So we already have the drums. I will add a chord progression with the piano. I will add a bass and I will add some strings. And the strings will only come in the chorus. In the beginning, we will have only the chord progression. And in the verse, we will have the chord progression, the bass and the drums. And the chorus, we will have the chord progression, the drums, the bass and the strings. I said it in different orders, but that's basically it. So now let's go to pattern 2. Let's add the pattern here to the playlist. Let's copy them. Let's select them. And you can see the keys that I'm clicking here, Control and Shift. So Control is to select, Shift is to duplicate, as you can see here. And let's do a chord progression. So let's put the piano on Insert 4. And let's go to piano roll. And let's add here some chords. Let's use C minor. Okay, let's do a very, very simple and basic progression like that. Actually, to help me, let's go to helpers, C. We already have C minor, so I will I think I will add some notes going up here. Okay, something like that. Very simple chord progression. Let's lower the volume a little bit. And as you can see, if we play from the beginning, we will have the chord progression. the drums for the verse. Now we just need to add a bass here. So let's go here to bass and let's do acoustic, opening a new channel. And now we have a bass. So for the bass, I will put it here on insert 5. And let's go to, actually, let's not go there. Let's copy these notes here. Control C. And to copy the notes, I clicked on Control and Shift to make a selection. And let's go to pattern 3. Let's go to the piano roll of the acoustic and let's Control V. Let's select everything and move this 1 octave down. Actually, I think this is too low. I think C5 will be enough. Okay, so now let's add pattern 3 to the playlist. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of distortion to the bass so that you can hear it a little bit better. Okay, so now we have the piano, and let's select here, let's click on pattern 2, and let's go here and right click and do, where is rename and color. Let's click here and let's call this piano. Enter, and now you see that this is piano. You can also select here, instead of right clicking, you can click on the mouse but on the wheel button, and you will have the dialog showing up. And let's call this bass, and let's do the same thing for the pattern 1. You can also click here, do the same thing, click on the mouse wheel button, and it shows up the same pattern, the same dialog, sorry. And let's call this drums. Okay, and now we need to do the same thing here for the chorus, and for the chorus we need to add some strings. So let's go to orchestral, and we have, actually let's add a choir. Let's go and open in a new channel. Okay, let's send this to pattern 4. Let's extend the pattern, click on Shift, click and duplicate the pattern like that. And let's go actually to pattern, to this one here, and let's actually copy everything. Let's go to pattern 4 like that, and we are in the close grand. What I want to do is go to the choir like that, and let's click on Control and up to move this 1 octave higher, and let's go and send this to insert 6 and lower the volume. Actually, I want some strings, so let's switch this choir with some strings. So we have here solo string section, and let's just drag and drop. And now we have some strings. And let's rename this. So to rename this, let's click here on this icon here and go rename strings. As you can see, I show you four different ways to rename the pattern. So as you can see, you have a lot of flexibility when it comes to doing the same thing in FL Studio. So again, we saw how to use the browser. We saw how to add sounds and instruments here to the channel rack. You can also add synths through this menu. I use these instruments which are sample based. So I assign the instruments or the sounds to the mixer. I added here in the mixer some mixing. I added some effects to process the audio, and then I went to the playlist and created a composition. And with this, you can basically do anything. And this is basically the workflow that you need to make music. It's to use the browser, import sounds into FL Studio, make a pattern from those sounds, apply audio processing to those sounds, and make an arrangement, and then you have a full song. And after this, if I want to export this, I would go here, File, Export. For instance, let's say WAV file, test. Actually, let's go to the desktop and let's save it. And then we have this dialog here, and it says WAV. You can export it as WAV, MP3, OGG, and you can also export them simultaneously. If I select all of these, it will export a WAV file, an MP3 file, and an OGG file. In this case, I just want WAV or MP3. For instance, you can also set the MP3 bitrate here. Let's put it on the maximum, and then you just hit start. And this is very simple. If we go now to the desktop, you will see that I have a file, MP3 file, which is playing, and it's basically the song that I just created. And if I move a little bit further, you also have the strings. I hope you learned something. I hope this course was helpful for you. And if you are new here to this channel, consider subscribe and activate notifications so that you know when I upload new videos. And if you have any questions, just leave a comment below. Consider supporting this channel by buying one of my products at dailybeats.pt, and also check out the other courses that I have there. And I think that's it, guys. I hope you have a good weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.